One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
Greetings, this is Tai Brown and welcome to One Question. Our guest today is David Batson. David is the Senior Associate Athletics Director for Athletic Compliance at Texas A&M University. Thanks for joining us, David.
Thank you, Tai, for having me.
Well, David, you've worked in compliance for a long time, and specifically a long time there at Texas A&M. You've been through a bunch of different head coaches. You've been through a few different athletics directors. Can you tell us how someone who works in compliance deals with tough situations, such as telling, an athletic director or any sport head coach that their new creative idea that they want to do is against the rules and it's probably not going to happen? How do you handle that conversation?
Well, the first thing you want to do is, embrace the idea that they've come up with and their creativity. But, you got to vet the ideas, and the coaches or ADs typically will, on top of that and are running it by compliance. But they know it needs to be vetted, especially if it's on the cutting edge of, maybe it's not specifically addressed by the NCAA rules, but it needs to be explored as far as are we crossing any lines, and be prepared to explain, what those rules are and provide the rationale for the outcome. But you're going to have coaches who are creative. They learn new things. There's new, software and developments out there all the time. And but sometimes their creativity may have been thought about somewhere else as well, and they just didn't know that somebody else had already thought about it and been told no as well. But you want to be appreciative of them bringing it to compliance, and you want to share some of their frustrations. And when it comes down to, if you have to tell them no, you say, hey, I understand how you're frustrated. You want to move forward and do these things and get creative, and but also talk about why you have the rule. What's the intent of that rule, and that it's not your personal decision to say no, but it is what it is when we're coming to dealing with conference or NCAA rules. And try to think about things that they may ask after that, or anticipate how they may respond to your response. But in that anticipation, sometimes people will think about it and say, and they'll get overstressed. They're like, oh my God, this coach is going to blow up, or the AD is going to blow up. They're going to get really mad, and you start building up so much stress in your system that you start freaking out. And but my experience is that most ADs, most head coaches, they're not going to go haywire on you. They may get mad or yell at you, but try not to take it personal. And typically, my experience is that they're appreciative. They may be disappointed, but they're appreciative of the fact that you're keeping them out of trouble.
And that's very insightful in terms of how they respond to you. And they may get mad, but you'll, if you give them a couple suggestions, that you start building that trust. Speaking on compliance in general, right? How do you create a culture of compliance at an institution while simultaneously allowing for, potential success for the various athletic programs through recruiting, creativity, and student-athlete well-being? How do you create that culture of compliance?
Well, the culture of compliance is something that's built over many years sometimes, and it takes a commitment from head coaches, your AD, your president, the staff that's working for your head coaches to do it the right way. And that leadership that's shown from the president down the head coaches and even further down the line is important in setting that culture of compliance, and then continuously wanting to help the coaches and all the staff understand that there's a lot of positives at this school that you can sell, and let's focus on those things as opposed to being upset that one school can do this or that or has an advantage over us. Let's focus on some things that are very positive and work on that instead of believing that you're at such a disadvantage that you need to cheat to be successful. You give something to a recruit or a student athlete, and some people believe that they own that person now, but it's really the student athlete or prospect that owns the person who gave it to them, because they're like, you can't ever do anything to me now because I'll just turn you in. And so committing a violation just sets you up for bad situations down the road.
So it sounds like creating a culture has a lot to do with education, whether it's education up front, education when some coaches are administrators do have questions, you have to really make education at the forefront, educating them on what is okay, what's not okay, what's coming down the pike, and those type things. You've been there at Texas A&M for a long time, so you've had to educate a lot of head coaches, a lot of athletic directors. Has there ever been a time when you called a previous institution where the head coach was and asked, hey, tell me about working with this person and compliance, and how are they? Will I have any issues or anything along those lines?
Well, typically, when we hire a head or assistant coach, obviously we're doing our background checks and we're calling around, and you take all the pieces of information that are provided to you, and absent some sort of extreme concern, sometimes your best hire is somebody who has been through a problem, because they don't want to go through it again. Not all the time. You have coaches that are repeat violators, in the history of NCAA, but a lot of times you hire a coach who has been in a little bit of a problem. They don't want to go through it again, and hopefully they've learned that lesson. And if you continue to build that relationship as they're here, then you hopefully create that culture that they don't want to be back in front of the infractions committee, or they don't want to be dealing with a student-athlete ineligibility situation again. And so they've learned from it, and they've moved on. And so you gather the information, because you have to gather that to make sure you're making an informed decision on your next coach, whether it's a head or assistant coach, and that there's nothing out there that steers you away that, yeah, we need to steer away from this coach at this time and move somewhere else. But just because they had a bad relationship or with their compliance office at the previous school, it's not necessarily going to persuade us from not hiring them here.
Right. Well, this has been an interesting conversation. You're talking about educating and then offering suggestions and not just saying no, in terms of building trust with your coaches and administrators. And of course, trust is the basis of our relationship. So it sounds like you've been doing this for a while and you know how to maneuver in the compliance space. And I definitely appreciate you joining us today on One Question.
Well, thank you, Ty, for the time, and look forward to meeting in person someday.
Yes, sir. That was David Batson. He is the Senior Associate Athletics Director for Athletic Compliance at Texas A&M University. And this is Tai Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.